وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Allah's greetings, peace and blessing on you, and welcome all of you, and welcome you again, wherever you are, with this beautiful lecture of Fatwa on air. The first question: in a masjid close by, people they pray secretly. Do I pray there with them because it is required in the masjid, or do I stop because of Corona and to obedience to the people in charge to stop the prayer? So what is the rule? Barakallahu fikum. And by the way, there's no fear for the masjid. We pray, no problem. When we go, we wash and that's it. The answer, Jazakallah khair, for your concern to do the Jama'ah in the masjid. From a young man, I hope you will not be prevented from among that area, that category that Allah emphasized as a young man who was raised in the house of Allah. It's required in the masjid is kind of disputed area, just so you could know. The majority that is sunnah, and some that made it's obligated if enough, and some that on everybody, and most of them they're not in it in the masjid, and each one has their own evidence. I'll give you Al-Imam Nawawi in this matter, in this school of thought about praying in the masjid. We said that it is obligatory. That is enough if there's some of them, as long as there's people going in, it's enough. That obligation is not required. Became the improvement, the wanted, the likelihood, and it is and a lot of scholars said the same. And then he said, and Ata al-Awza'i and Ahmad and Abu Thawr ibn Mundhir, it is obligatory on everybody, not for a condition for correctness. And the majority of the scholars that it is not obligatory, but is it enough or sunnah? Majority of the scholars, they said it is a sunnah mu'akkada, not obligatory. Just so you will know that there is a dispute in this matter, whether you need to do it in the masjid. But to guard yourself, it is always better in the normal circumstance to do the prayers only in the masjid. Wherever the call is for it, Allah said, prostrate with those who prostrate. But in your area, if the CDC guidelines in your country, in your area, requires to leave it, the masjid temporary, then you have your own excuse. It is enough for you to do a congregation with your family in your house until this is lifted. And I hope that you get the reward in the masjid, even though you didn't do it in the masjid, because you are concerned about doing it in the masjid. Nothing stopped you except that what we all are going through. And you will get the reward, inshallah, if you get sick or travel, just like when you are healthy in your routine. Another question from a brother. He's saying, do you have a fatwa that concern what people are suggesting from making the prayers in where people could be in their own cars, in areas where it's allowed, that's like stadium or the areas where they have the cars. We say it's not. It is a sunnah on Shafi'iyya and Malikiyya, required on Hanafiya, and it is obligatory with the Hanabila. And to say it's sunnah, so nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong if you don't pray it, even if you are capable. Because the qiyam is part of the obligatory. And the distance between the prayer, it is something required because of safety issues. But to change the farida and to make it into something in the future as something, people always want some breaks here or there. So if there is that, people will still remember that they prayed in the car, and some people might think this is normal. Especially like right now, there is different options to pray in small congregations or in the houses. Just like the masajid they opened with the minimum number, same thing you could do with the Eid. And in Eid it's easier, the khutbah is nafila anyway, and it's not required to be in the masjid. It is better to establish it outside. Whoever missed it for whatever reason, he can do 2 rak'ahs in his house. Another important issue was from the when it comes to worship, with when you cannot form something when you cannot worship Allah in the form that you know the normal way because of circumstances like we see, then it is not required. And we're talking about the sunnah, not the obligatory. And the main thing that is established when the excuse is gone. So this form that you see, if it is the only way to establish the origin of the prayer, like it is right now in this public gathering, and after the ease maybe it's changed, so maybe it will be, or but with the alternatives, to stay with these alternatives that's there is to preserve, to keep the prayer in its original form. I learned that one of my friends, he is doing the action of the pure flute. Do I avoid him? Don't say salah to him? Well, of course, this is one of the ugliest sins, and Allah destroyed a whole village because of that. On the village that used to do the homosexuality, where he made it upside down and rained it with stones of fire. So, so you always wanted to give the warning and the reward between the hope and the warning, and you do what you go to work better to bring the person back. We have to stop him from using it, doing it, and to convince him of that it is wrong, and to make his heart soften to repentance. That's the right action. Sometimes the warning could be work sometimes, and sometimes the certain could be different. So you choose what is better for each condition or situation. The Prophet ﷺ, he left deserted the three that Allah has told us not to. And when things get very tight to them, and they knew there's no way out of except from Allah except to go back to Him. And Allah made for those who were hearts soft to Islam, they have a share into the zakah. If it known the intention of the Shara, then it'll be easier to apply it. Can you take the Zakat al-Fitr to bury the person who died? You don't spend zakah on burying somebody, because that's alright. First of all, it comes out of his money, even if it is he had debt, even if he don't bankrupted. We don't take his clothes. We don't starve. To prepare the debt is from their money first, before paying the debt, before the wills, before the division. There's no money he left. So whoever his guardian, his father, his grandfather, his son, spouse, none of them is there, then the group of the masjid to do it. Where's the masjid? That's one of the most important role for it in this country. If they don't care of them dead, what would it do? Otherwise, it is from general charity of the Muslims, and I can't imagine that they will be on front of a person where you have to give him the zakah or throw him out. We did not get to that point as Muslim community. We still have respect for the dead. The poet used to say, if the funeral and the wedding collide, the death, it has its own respect. No one died in this country. I can't find a grave that will bury him. And Sami, this is not from the zakah money. From his money, if not from his guardians. If he got something in the throat, you don't spit it, but you don't bring it in. And this time, the dollar is 3 times its value, and the other, do we pay the before or now? For Sharia, they have the repayment for the inflation, The loan, it has to be of its of equal but not with value, unless it is completely collapsed. And if the currency collapses, then you have a calamity. You have to do whatever to reduce that, and you have to pay on both sides, because neither party is responsible, because it's a calamity. So from justice, not the loaner take care of it, nor the public. It has to be divided in between. If it didn't happen out of acceptance from both parties, then it could go to the court, and this is probably the most just thing that was said in this matter. I put money for Amja for zakah. Amja is part of the imported to zakah, is to have the fatwa, especially in for the calamities, and also to support the knowledge. Until some of the scholars said it is not, you cannot sit in an area without a mufti, someone who knows the issues. We take a question. A question asks, is it allowed to donate to pay for a musalla in United States? Is it part of zakah? So is it one of the avenues of zakah? Originally, that the masjids established from general funds. And in the sake of Allah, of the last decision of it includes all the da'wah activities and what help it. So if you want to ease the da'wah programs, this is a part of zakah, because it's considered part of jihad to the sake of Allah with the word. But the masjid as a structure, it has to be built from charity, general charity, not from zakah. Then the zakah as a reserve, only like if there is an emergency. But we don't go immediately to the zakah for building the masjids. The best decision is like Amja. There is dispute on this to keep it in the building of the masjid and not to be used in the zakah except to emergency. You can give it for the da'wah programs and support it. This way it goes in the sake of Allah. Also includes the loans on the masjid. You can pay it from that. But the masjid payment to pay for something, that's a different issue. In summary, if you have a general charity for the masjid, do that from the, because then there is nothing wrong with that. Because what you can't do it all, you can do it partially. What is the rule of the mother of the spouse? I told her son not to have kids with me, and always been very painful to me. Well, it has two sides. The mother, that she had a statement, so you have to listen for both parties. I advise you, first of all, salam, 20 falafel. Okay. Talk to your husband in goodness and get some people to intercede to do good, and the scholars, maybe Allah Azza wa Jal will ease this hardship between you and your mother-in-law. And if problem get bad, Allah said to bring an arbitrator from both sides. If they want goodness, then Allah will make them successful. But I advise you to more patience in this month of patience, and to hold what and nothing person could take and calm his manners when he is capable of doing revenge. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. What do you think about selling on the internet? The commodity is different. Just because I agreed to my liable, who didn't see it, if he found it, he have the choice. If it is just like the description, it's fine. If not, he could return it back. And I think in this country that they are careful about security, and there's laws to protect you if it's not what they advertise. And you have to look at the rules whenever you buy something from the internet on what is the policy about if it is not what you expected. A lot of people say, well, how much is zakat al-fitr in Michigan? Some people say 10, some 12, some 15. And can you give it as money? So we answer, it's charity of fitr, it's sa' of ta'am. It is purification for the person who is fasting. Take it in the value is an exception. And when the food's prices is different, so the value is different. The sa' of date is different than rice. Even the date, there are too many different. And the but to take the zakat al-fitr and money when there is a need, it is a school of thought of for Hanaf and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz al-Bukhari, and most of the ifta countries, the advice of it. The Sheikh Abdullah Mutlaq from the Fatwa in Saudi Arabia, he said the majority of the people, they don't see it, but the Imam Abu Hanifa and Umar ibn al-Aziz al-Bukhari allow that it comes out money. And Sheikh Islam said if it is better for the poor. And nowadays they are making fatwa that you can take it as value, and they are looking at the meaning or the interest of the Sharia, and they benefit from money than they benefit from rice. A lot of imams, they say that people take the rice, let's suppose 240, they get it for 100, 160 riyal. That means he's losing. So if he was given money, it'll be easier for him. And then this word, I found burden when I say don't give except rice, and the person go and buy the rice and give it to the poor, and as soon as he give it to him, he goes to sell it because his need at the day fade. And allowed for those who are going outside the Muslim countries to give it zakat fitr money. There is no doubt that who are sent to different countries, they don't have enough for the food. That's why to give it to them is allowed. And all Muslim countries, Fatwa, Sudan, Misr, Gulf countries, they all say that you can give the zakah in by the value. And in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they still do that as food. A man who wants to transfer money in for zakah in our country, then give him $1. They tell him, leave this money here, I will buy it with a higher number. I do not know the details. I'm lost in the details, but I will tell you what. You have the zakah. Take it as soon as possible with the currency that's available. So take the investment right now. Let's earn money on freeing yourself. If there's some arrangement for the interest of the poor without delay, I hope there's enough things to do that. That's the rule. A question: a friend of mine in Canada wants to get married, but all public areas are closed and they cannot get marriage license, so he could have marriage. I don't want to tell him be patient. And is the ability to get married. And now it's about technicalities. the Islamic contract is something, and the documentation is different. When somebody comes up with them, go to the court, get us a marriage license after the normal law, 72 hours, and we could make the marriage according to the book of Allah and the Sunnah. Then he'll go back to the court to confirm it. So his marriage happened. What happened in the court, it is just a documentation, so separate between the two. But the masjid, to stop the problems, and when there is a dispute, cannot do the marriage except through the legal system. We tell everybody, Abdullah, take, and if you bring us the marriage license and the time is done, then you do the contract, and then it goes to the court after that to get through. So if you have a problem, a legal one, you could make the zawaj with whatever you want, with the wali and two witnesses. Doesn't have to be in the masjid. In our masjid, it's not our policy to do the marriage without the marriage license. So the shara one thing and the civil thing is something else. It's very important to protect the rights of people. But for the correctness, the documentation is not part. That should not be a condition for the marriage. Someone says, some people, because they told me, I want to buy a car through a bank, and Allah has indicated that it's very hard, and at the end they're gonna give you the same money. So I took a loan, and since then I'm very sad. Did I fall in the riba? No, I don't know what to do. How to get out? What's the replacement? Is there a way out? We tell him there's no sin that's higher than the repentance of Allah. Allah opened the gate of forgiveness. No one can stop it. Amjad, they have a decision about how do you repent for someone who bought something with riba. Whomever did that, and he knows that it's forbidden, to refinance through Islamic institution, or to increase the payment every monthly, because that will increase your part, and to help the house and to get. But if he bought, he don't know that is forbidden. He's trying to copy someone. He have nothing to do, no sin about what was before. So we will not punishing until we send a messenger and do their best to increase the monthly payment or go back refinance through Islamic institution. We see this beautiful thing. It worked with the car. If someone try to get rid of this loan as much as you can. If you can get rid of the car without too much loss, all these are other options. Ameen. 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 ما في شيء علق. Someone is saying, I have a company in England and I own it. I work in programming. We have to pay 19% after paying the expenses. Every time I win money, I use this ضريبة in one avenue, one bank account. When it comes to your payment, the payment is there. Is it I have to pay zakah? No, because it's not your money. You put this one to pay the debt on you. Even though you didn't put it in their account, you're still responsible for it. If I'm a merchant, I have money and I have products, how do I make this account? I count how many I have of currency and other parts. I take what I have in debt and things you cannot run away from, death and IRS. So the money that you have prepared to pay the taxes, it was not your money, it's for something else. We help you, you're able to pay it. I mean, we ask Allah to protect you for trying to pay the zakah. Amen. The zakah, whomever did it with his soul happy with it, then he get the reward. But the hypocrites, they come to the prayers and they are very lazy. آمين. أصلا الحمد لله صح ما شايف.
المشكلة طلعت من قبل بس لأني أنا ما في عندي واير مباشر من هون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
معلقة الدنيا كلها.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.